Hi guys, welcome back to Chess the Matthew. So on this video, we'll tackle about the Ruy Lopez opening. So the set opening start with a move of e4, and the black here plays e5 to stop any further push of e4 pawn, and after knight f3, attacking the undefended pawn on e5, but there is knight c6 defending his pawn, and here the white here plays bishop to b5, the significant move to the Ruy Lopez opening, with the idea of removing the defender to the c6 of the e5 pawn, but there is simple a6. The idea here is to force the bishop here to have some decision whether he will capture the knight on c6, surrendering his bishop pair, or just retreat to a4. But for example, if the white here plays bishop takes c6 on this position, but there is simple d2 c6. The idea is, for example, the white here grab the undependent pawn on e5, but there is queen to d4 with a fork, attacking the knight and the pawn. And after knight f3 retreat, but there is queen takes e4 with a check. And after queen to e2, there is queen trade, and after king takes bishop to f5, the black here has a slight advantage with a pressure to the c2 pawn, and later on, the black here can castle on the king side and tries to pressure this uncastled king on the e2. So going back, for example, after b5 on this position, in which the black here plays a6, attacking the bishop, the white here should retreat his bishop to a4. The idea is, for example, after knight f6, the white here can now castle on the king side, and for example, leaving his pawn undependent on e4, enticing this knight to grab that undependent pawn on e4. But for example, if the black here will try to grab that undependent pawn on e4, but there is a simple rook to e1, attacking this knight and pawn, and for example, after knight c5, attacking the bishop, but there's simple bishop takes to c6, and after d takes c6, knight takes e5 with a threat to grab the c6 with a check to the king, and again with double attack to the queen, and again the knight can also have to g6 with a threat to grab the undefended rook on a8 with a check. So on this position, the black here may try bishop to e6, but after queen h5, pressurizing the f7 pawn on this position, because after bishop d6 with a threat to castle on the king side to escape from the danger to the e file, but there's simple knight takes f7 with a fork. And after g6 on this position, disconnecting the connection of the queen and knight on this position, but there's simple knight takes d8, and after g takes h5, here comes the knight takes e6, winning a piece. So on this position, after kingside castling, the black here should counter with b5 move to attack the undefended bishop on a4. The idea is, for example, after bishop b3, although the black here can try again to capture this pawn, but the black here should prioritize the kingside castling by playing bishop to e7, vacating the f8 square so that the black king now here can castle on the king side. But for example, if the black here again tries to capture the pawn on e4, but still there is rook to e1, the idea is again attacking this knight and pawn on the e file against the uncastled king on the e8. And for example, after d5, defending his knight, but there is simple knight c3, pressurizing the knight on e4, but after knight takes to c3 and d takes c3, we shall see in this position now that the black here has a huge threat to win back now the deficit pawn on the d5 and e5. But for example, if the black here will defend his e5 pawn on this position, but there's simple queen takes d5 with a fork to threat to mate in one against the black's king, and again attacking this undefended knight on c6. But if the black here will defend both with queen to d7, but there is a simple knight takes to e5 with a strong attack on the board. So going back, for example, after bishop b3, in which the black here should play bishop to e7 to again let the black king here to castle now on the king side, and after rook to e1 by the white here defending his e4 pawn, but the black king now can actually escape from the danger to the e file by kingside castling, and this is now the end of the main line. So here, after on this position, the black here can now solidify center by playing the move d6 and again trying to develop his bishop on the b7 to pressure the e4 with the attack of the bishop and the knight versus the one defender. And again, after opening this diagonal with knight to e5, it also attacks now the bishop on the b3, trying to win the bishop pair on the board. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe.